What's going on, people? Welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show, which is the show that aims to help you profit from betting on MMA. Look, I love watching MMA and UFC fights. There's only one thing I like doing more: cashing checks while watching MMA and UFC fights. And that's what we've been doing for the entire year in 2025. Of course, we're gonna have some losing weeks because guess what? And listen to this, nobody wins every single week, but we win most weeks. And that's what we've been doing. And that's what I have been giving to you on this show for the entire 2025 and also on this YouTube channel for the last 6 years. My aim for this show that you're gonna watch today is to help put cash in your pocket. This weekend, the UFC returns to the Apex. So you know what happens when they go to the Apex. Finishes galore. It's a small cage, smaller than the usual UFC cage. So smaller, more jam-packed, more action, more finishes. And that's what I'm gonna be hoping for with my fingers crossed. We have Amir Bazi taking on Tatsuro Taira in the main event of the evening. A great flyweight matchup. My favorite division in the UFC. And you know that one's gonna be a grappler's delight. We got my man Chris Duncan taking on Mateusz Rebecki. You know who I'm rooting for in that one. That is an absolute banger of a lightweight matchup, bias aside. We got Silva taking on Kevin Vallejos, a boxer's delight. I mean, boys, we got a grappler's delight in the main event, a boxer's delight, 2 fights out of the main event. I mean, this card is a low-key banger for an Apex event, I'll tell you that much. You wanna know about low-key bangers? Another fight we're gonna break down on today's show. Elves Brener versus Esteban Ribovics. A classic battle of South America. Argentina versus Brazil. Who's gonna come out on top? I'm about to tell you. Let's run that intro and get into the good stuff. So welcome back to the show, boys, and I'm gonna get straight into the main event of the evening. I just have one question. Are you guys enjoying the early uploads that I've been doing over the last couple of weeks? I'm getting the video out straight after the UFC finishes so we can move on to the next event and earn money. Are you guys enjoying the early uploads? It's a little bit inconvenient because I have to do early tape study, but I will continue to do it if you're enjoying it. So please let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, we can maybe go back to the regular schedule. But without further ado, the main event of the evening, let's not waste no time. Tatsuro Taira is taking on Amir Bazi. And Tatsuro Taira is coming into this fight with a shiny record of 16 wins with only 1 loss. The same can be said for Amir Bazi, a similar shiny record of 17 wins and only 2 losses. As I always say, the UFC often puts these fights together where the fighters have a similar record. And these are 2 comparable fighters, you know, they're both mainly flyweight grapplers. Currently, they have Tatsuro Taira as a big favorite at -280. With the underdog price tag on Amir Bazi coming back at +240. So there's nothing that like immediately stands out to me at first glance, which I always like to tell you guys if that happens, you know, because oftentimes we spot recency bias as soon as it happens. You know, as soon as I look at the matchup, something massive sticks out to me. The only thing that really sticks out to me in this one is that we could see some type of a mirror matchup here. You know, both fighters have similar styles. Both fighters are grapplers first. Both fighters want to get their takedown going. And both fighters specifically want to get their back takes going. They're very good at taking their back. They're very slick at taking their back. And they're very good at staying on the back once they get there. You know, I'd say that if I had to say Amir Bazi and Tatsuro Tai's #1 quality, it would probably be back takes and staying on the back. I think one guy does it better than the other guy, but I would say that they're both comparable in that it's probably their best attribute. At least, you know, top 3, top 5 attributes within their entire MMA skill set. So it's gonna be interesting to see 2 grapplers go at it, because oftentimes when 2 grapplers go at it, it turns into a striking match. I don't think that's gonna happen here, because I don't feel like they have the wrestling ability to negate each other enough to where it's gonna be a striking matchup. Because remember what I said, they're both elite at taking the back. And so you only need to give them 1 chance to take the back, you know? And if Amir Bazi gives his back up for a moment, I think his back's getting taken for the whole round. I don't think he's gonna be able to negate it and turn it into a striking match. So the way I see this one breaking down, boys, and obviously I can speak about this from many different angles, but the way I see this one breaking down is that there's one guy who's probably going to go a lot farther in the division than the other guy, and I'd say that would be a Tatsuro Taira. You know, the guy just had a 50-50 fight with Brandon Royval, who just had a 50-50 fight with Josh Van, who also beat Brandon Royval. who was the champion of the division, who dominated Amir Bazi. I mean, we're going from fight to fight to fight to fight to fight. It's not to do MMA math. It's to speak about the trajectory of the fighters and the upside in the division, right? And who will go farther? Who is the real prospect out of these two? And I think when you compare their fights, their skill sets in the octagon against comparable opponents, I think one guy shines clearly, and that's the big favorite in Tatsuro Taira. The guy is only 25 years old, and he's going to a 50-50 veteran war where he shows his heart, durability, cardio, back takes, grappling, skill set, chin. Like, he showed everything in that Brandon Royval fight. And although he lost, he impressed me in the fight. Being a young guy, coming up against someone who is a force to be reckoned with, who I personally thought he would beat because I thought he'd get the back takes cleaner. And, you know, Royval has always put himself in trouble on the ground and been submitted before. So I thought that that would be the case, but he still impressed me going the 5-round distance, throwing as many strikes as he did, even though he was getting pieced up on the feet, and shooting as many takedowns as he did, even though he was really gassed out. I mean, he threw 143 strikes in that fight, and that's pretty impressive considering that there was large chunks of the fight where he completely dominated Brandon Royval with top control, back control, and grappling in general, right? So he wasn't on the feet to throw that many strikes. He got 6 takedowns and 12 minutes of control, right? So a lot of the time he wasn't throwing a lot of ground and pound, you know, he was trying to control. So you talk about 12 minutes of control. There's only 13 minutes of the fight left, right? And the guy is throwing 143 strikes when he's completely outmatched on the feet and taking punishment and doesn't want to be there. So it's pretty impressive, in my opinion. And the majority of those was distant strikes, as I mentioned, right? 93 significant strikes at distance for Tatsuro Taira. So yeah, I feel like even though he was outmatched on the feet clearly, he still showed me a lot in that fight. You know, he showed me a hell of a lot more than Amir Bazi has shown me, even in a win over Kara France, and we'll speak about that in a minute. But let me just continue what I was saying with Tatsuro Taira. The guy's 25 years old, and at such a young age, Tatsuro Taira is definitely going to be improving. He's actually done his camp with Corey Sandhagen at High Altitude Martial Arts in Denver, Colorado. So a very high level, elite training partner in Corey Sandhagen. He's also been training with Justin Wetzel, and he's also been training with Chepe Mariscal and a bunch of other fighters over there at High Altitude. You know, that's a great camp to go to, not only to improve your cardio because it's above sea level in Denver, but also just the bodies he's getting in the room. I mean, Corey Sandhagen is probably, I couldn't think of a better training partner than Corey Sandhagen. Corey can teach him everything he needs to know about the educated striking, which he needs to improve his striking, but he also can out-scramble him at times, get out of positions, which a lot of people can't do against Tatsuro Taira, and push him in sparring. And I know those two have been sparring specifically because I've seen it on his Instagram. So I'm actually expecting an improved Tatsuro Taira in this fight, and why wouldn't I? The guy's very young and, you know, he's shown good stuff in the UFC. So I'm expecting an improved Tatsuro Taira. I'm expecting someone in Tatsuro Taira that's going to reach the top 5, top 10 of the division, and I'm expecting Tatsuro Taira to win this fight against Amir Bazi this weekend. Let's speak about Amir a little bit, right? Because I just went in on Tatsuro Taira a little bit. But I want to speak about Amir Bazi. He's a good fighter, a very solid fighter. I do feel like his standout win is a robbery. You know, I felt like he lost to Kara France 4 rounds to 1. But he ended up winning a split decision there. I think it was a bad decision. I've watched that fight many times since they actually fought. And every time I watch it, I score it for Kara France fairly confidently. You know, so I felt like that was a bad decision. I felt like he should have lost that fight. And I mean, outside of that, his record is quite bare. Now look, I do want to give Amir Bazi some credit. You know, it's not like the guy hasn't looked good in the UFC, because he has, but he's coming up against Tatsuro Taira. So my entire breakdown is through the lens of how good Taira is, not really how bad Amir Bazi is, because he's not a bad fighter. The guy has very good grappling himself. He's very strong to take the back. He's got very good takedowns. It's good takedowns. You know, they're not the best in the world, but they're solid takedowns. And he's very creative. You know, extremely creative with not only his finishes in the UFC, but his scrambles and the way he gets the back and basically everything when it comes to the grappling prowess. So, you know, he could definitely trouble Taira at some points here. You know, maybe he can jump on the back, but I just don't think someone like Tatsuro Taira is going to let Amir Bazi stay long on the back. And if he's not staying long on the back, I can't give him much upside in a division in this fight, man. I really can't. You know, if you go back and look at round 3 of the Kara France fight, he took Kara's back and he had the body lock in, but Kara was able to swing his hand over turn Amir Al-Bazi while the body lock was still on. So he was basically facing him and he was able to land a takedown off that, right? He obviously fell in guard because he fell into the body lock. And then he was able to land big elbows from top position. He controlled Amir Al-Bazi there for the rest of the round. And there was about a minute left in the round, 30 seconds left in the round when that happened. And he landed huge shots, huge elbows. He was actually able to pass Amir Al-Bazi's guard right at the end. He stood up, he landed big shots. The feet were on the hips. He passed the legs, hopped into top position. And at that point, he would have been in side control if he continued grappling, if the bell didn't go. I'm just imagining someone like Tatsuro Taira being a lot slicker in that position, you know, reversing Amir Al-Bazi, passing his guard, go into side control and probably finishing him. You know, Amir Al-Bazi, I feel like he's gonna give his neck when he gets up, like you have to, right? You know, people always say like, oh, he gives his back to get up or he gives his neck to get up. Like you have to give some limb when you get up. It's impossible not to. You can't just transport to your feet, right? There's a few main ways that fighters are gonna get back to their feet. It's either by turning on their knees, giving their back up, using their hands to stand up, right? Then you have to give the back. Or ideally, you want a jiu-jitsu stand up where you put one hand on the mat and face your opponent and, you know, kick as you stand up. That's the ideal way, but it's not super easy. You can get you can get taken down back off that as well. That's what we call a technical stand up. Or the other way, you face your opponent and you basically do the same. You give your back up, but because you're facing them, you're not giving your back up, right? You kind of give your neck up, right? So you just put your hand on the mat, you go to stand up, but your neck's there to be given. And that's what Amir Al-Bazi does when he gets back up from what I've seen, although it's few and far between. And I could just see Tatsuro Taira jumping on the guillotine there. I really could, you know, or just taking the back, swimming around to the back and taking the back. So I just feel like this fight's going to play out in the grappling for the most part. And we've got one guy who's a more technical grappler, one guy who's a better grappler, one guy who's more dangerous on the ground. And I'm going to give that advantage to Tatsuro Taira. So my prediction for this fight is that it's a cagey affair. Amir Al-Bazi is looking pretty good. You know, the striking is fairly competitive, fairly even. Tatsuro Taira is looking a lot better than he did against Brandon Royval on the feet because he's not facing someone like Brandon Royval and because he's improved in between fights. But at some point, the grappling starts to show itself and the level difference on the mat start to show itself. And Amir Al-Bazi does a few cool things on the mat, you know, and maybe he's able to take maybe he's able to take Tatsuro down, maybe he's able to get his back for a second. But Tatsuro is a little bit slicker in the transitions. He gets to the back faster. He locks in a choke or something, and he does finish Amir Al-Bazi in the later rounds when Amir starts to slow down and make a little bit more mistakes. So round 3, round 4 submission is going to be my prediction for Tatsuro Taira in this one. The next fight of the night, we got Chris Duncan taking on Mateusz Rebecki. So Rebecki has a very, very solid record of 20 wins and 2 losses. Chris Duncan has a solid record in his own right, 13 wins and the same 2 losses. Currently, they have Rebecki as a -210 favorite with the underdog price tag on Chris Duncan coming back at +180. So tough one for me to break down, boys, and the reason is because Chris Duncan is a friend of my show, Parlay Madness. He's come onto the show multiple times. Chris is someone I consider a friend, so I'm not gonna sit here and give a unbiased take. So again, it's a disclaimer. Just like I told you guys when I broke down Alejandro Pantoja versus Kai Kara France, I may be a bit biased in this one. I may be a bit biased for Chris. Maybe you wanna listen to someone else's breakdown and not mine. I'd like to shout out my man, Jewish Better, and my man Zar, who will be on my show Parlay Madness later this week. And I was gonna say maybe listen to those guys' show, but those guys also have an affiliation with Duncan because he came on our show. So maybe don't listen to their breakdown. I would like to shout out my man Dan from Half the Battle. Maybe go and listen to his breakdown. I'd like to shout out the Club and Sub boys. Maybe listen to their breakdown. I'd like to shout out the Beat the Line boys. Maybe listen to their breakdown. Key, Peg, Dravi. Maybe listen to those guys. Because I'm a bit biased on this one, right? I think that it's a tough fight for both fighters because anytime you fight Chris Duncan, you're in with a fight. You're in for a fight. You ain't having an easy fight against someone like Chris. And you're not having an easy fight against someone like Rebecki, right? So I think whoever wins is gonna have to go through some violence, some war. I don't think this is gonna be an easy fight for either. I don't think this is gonna be a domination from either. One thing I can say for sure is that Chris Duncan has been preparing very well for this fight. You know, he's out there in AT2 doing the training camp with Thiago Alves, doing the training camp sparring regularly with Dustin Poirier and with Grant Dawson. You know, I'd say that Dustin Poirier and Grant Dawson are very, very good sparring partners for Mateusz Rebecki because Rebecki's a solid boxer. You know, he's not a good striker in general. Like, ain't got too many kicks, you know, he ain't really got to worry about the educated striking, but boxing he's solid, you know, he's a decent boxer. And Poirier's the best boxer in the division, arguably one of, right? And then you got his grappling side, Rebecki, very strong grappler, very strong on top. Grant Dawson fits the bill there. So definitely two guys to help him prepare for Mateusz Rebecki. So solid training partners there. Mateusz Rebecki is also training in the exact same gym, in the same facility. They're in the very next room to each other when they're training, which is, you know, adding another strange dynamic to it. It's not every day that happens. They also have taken a photo together recently and posted it up on social media. One thing I noticed about that photo is that Chris is massive. You know, Chris is a huge lightweight. He's definitely got size advantage over Mateusz Rebecki. So this is a crazy clash of styles, man. It's a very interesting clash of styles, I should say. Chris Duncan is extremely strong for the lightweight division, you know, and he's not easy to take down. He's been taken down in the UFC before, more than one time, but man, you see the fighters struggle to take him down. They're selling out for the takedown. You go back and look at the Manuel Torres fight, right? And the fight was only like a 3 or 4 minute fight. Manuel Torres got 2 takedowns there. Man, one of the takedowns is the second takedown. The guy literally is putting his all into the takedown, like he just grabs him by the body and tries to throw him down with all his might. He does get Chris down, but Chris reverses it straight away, basically gets back to his knees, follows through, rolls through, but Manuel Torres, very slick at taking the back, is able to take the back, wrap up the back very quickly after that takedown. Rebecki's not the type of guy to do that. You know, if Rebecki sells out for the takedown like that, Chris is just getting straight back up to his feet and Rebecki is wasting a lot of energy. You know, the first takedown that Manuel Torres got, again, the same thing happened. Chris was able to get back up to his feet straight away. So I don't really buy Rebecki just being able to go out there and grapple Chris for 15 minutes because that's kind of been his MO in a lot of fights. Now, obviously, he's a marauder on the feet, right? So he's going to walk forward and throw shots. I mean, look at that Orobai fight. Look at the Roosevelt Roberts fight. The guy's going to walk forward and swing heavy, right? And Chris needs to be careful about that, you know, not getting caught on the chin because Rebecki hits very, very hard. But the grappling piece of the fight, I feel like Rebecki's going to struggle to grapple Chris. Conversely, I feel like Chris is going to struggle to grapple Rebecki. So I kind of seeing it being a clinch/striking affair for the most part, where maybe both fighters can have some success in the grappling, but I don't think they're going to have success controlling their opponent for that long. You know, I trust that Chris will get back up to his feet if taken down. And I also trust that it's going to be kind of tough to consistently get him down as well. And I also trust on the Rebecki side that he's probably going to gas out if he just consistently grapples Chris. And I think he's going to realize that after the first few minutes, you know, like fuck, or at least the first few minutes of grappling whenever that ensues. Maybe they just strike for the first round, so it won't be in the first few minutes. But I think Rebecki's going to know, like, all right, it's going to kind of tough to grapple this guy unless maybe I hurt him first. So I'm not going to go crazy with the grappling because I'm going to tire myself out. And I feel like the same for Chris. You know, Chris is probably going to be like, all right, I'm going to strike with this dude for the most part because first of all, I can land on him. He's quite hittable, Mateusz Rebecki. He's short, you know, so we have a reach advantage, a range advantage, and he's fucking hard to take down. So I ain't gonna just sell out for the takedowns. Obviously, he'll try and mix it in, but I think he'll know, all right, I'll keep this on the feet for the most part. That's how I see the fight playing out, right? Shit can happen in MMA. He might fucking take the back and just, you know, whatever. But that's how I see the fight playing out. I think it's going to be a striking affair for the most part. So let's speak about the striking. Who's going to win the striking? It's a tough one. I think Chris is the better overall striker. I think he has more tools in his toolbox. But I think Rebecki is more aggressive. He swings more wild, which can be a detriment, but it can also be an advantage in somebody's fights. He's landing shots because he's winging shots and you don't expect them to hit you. I'll also say that Rebecki probably has more power. You know, he's smaller, stockier, but weighs the same. So he's swinging with crazy level, you know. But man, Chris has a lot of power too, though. If you go back and watch that Manuel Torres fight, he rocked Manuel Torres within the first 5 seconds of the fight. You know, big shot. If you go back and watch the Charlie Campbell fight on the Dana White's Contender Series, you ask Charlie if Chris has power. You know, you go back and watch the last fight he had against Jordan Vucinic. It was kind of a knockdown and it was a wrap shortly after that. Like, the knockdown changed a lot in that fight. You know, it basically just changed the dynamic of the fight. Like, look, you can't fuck with me. You just got knocked down. I hit heavy. And Jordan seemed kind of scared after that. Like, he shot from 2 miles away because he just didn't want to get hit again. You know, so Chris has a lot of power as well. And I think they can both hurt each other here. You know, I really do. I think they can both hurt each other. And that's going to be what it comes down to, guys. Like, I honestly think this could be a war, you know, and I don't want it to be a war because I want Chris to go in there and submit him in round 1 or knock him out. and not take any punishment. But I think it's going to be a war, man. I have to be honest. You know, like I said, I'm probably not the best person to listen to because I'm a bit biased and I'll be rooting for Chris, but I'm going to be as real as I can with you guys while still supporting Chris. And I do think it's going to be a war. I think Chris is going to get hit in this fight. I think he's going to take punishment in this fight. But I think the same for Rebecki. I think it's going to be blood and guts in the octagon. I think we could see almost a classic. That's just how I see the fight playing out. MMA is crazy. I didn't see Daniel Rodriguez beating Kevin Holland. I didn't see Kevin Holland getting rocked by Daniel Rodriguez so many times. Like, obviously, you know, like shit happens. But yeah. I see the fight playing out like that, man. I think Chris can get his kicking game going. I mean, Chris has beautiful kicks, man. Beautiful kicks. Beautiful kicks from the orthodox stance. The rear leg high kick. He broke Yanel Ashmu's, my man JB's arm with a beautiful high kick. You know, he's got great body kicks. He showed them in that fight as well. So I think on the outside, he's more technical. He's better. He's better at judging, you know, range. He's got spinning kicks. I mean, Mateusz Rebecki, I don't even think he knows what a spinning kick is. He definitely ain't going to throw one. Chris Duncan is throwing spinning kicks. You know what I mean? Like, the guy's athletic on the feet. I think he can land with the kicks. I think he can score with the kicks. But in boxing range, it's going to be a struggle because Rebecki does throw hard. And, you know, he's not just throwing hard. He's also throwing smart as well. You know, he's not just a wrestler with an overhand. Like, go back and watch the Urubai fight. That was a war. I feel like Urubai and Rebecki are kind of similar. Both fighters are underrated with their striking acumen because they're kind of just brutes and physical and mainly grapplers. So people think that they can't strike or they're not very technical strikers, but they're pretty good, you know, especially in the boxing. But yeah, I favor Chris in the overall striking. In the boxing, it's definitely a lot closer. But man, that's it. My official prediction, what do you think it's going to be? Chris Duncan, submission round 2 after a war. He hurts Rebecki, jumps on the gilly. I may look to play an under in this fight. Doesn't go to a decision because, like I said, I think it's going to be a war. And yeah, man, Chris is going to go out there and finish him. So that's my breakdown. I can't wait for the fight. I think it could be an instant classic, like I said. So that's it, man. War Chris Duncan. War the problem. Don't be silly. Jump the gilly. That's all I gotta say. The next fight is Esteban Ribovics taking on Elves Brener. An old school classic South American matchup of Argentina versus Brazil. If you're a football fan, you know what I mean by that. So Esteban Ribovics has a record of 14 wins and 2 losses, with Elves Brener coming into this fight with a record of 16 wins and 5 losses. So currently Esteban Ribovics is a big favorite at -270, with the underdog price tag on Elves Brener coming back at +230. So the first thing that stands out to me in this fight is that this fight was already scheduled. If you didn't know, back in 2023, these guys were scheduled to fight against each other, but the fight didn't happen. And I was going to bet Esteban Ribovics in that fight, but then the fight was cancelled, so I couldn't bet on it. Esteban Ribovics was an underdog in that fight, and now he's -270. So rest in peace, my bet on Ribovics at plus money. We ain't getting that here. I don't know if I can lay -270 on it. It's pretty fucking crazy. I wouldn't even say the line is like necessarily crazy, but just the odd swing is so crazy. It would feel insane for me to, you know, bet -270 when I literally was going to bet an underdog price tag on the exact same fighter. And I don't think much has changed in those years. Brenner's took a little bit more damage, but I feel like the fight would have played out the same. How will the fight play out, James? Here is how I think it's going to play out. In my opinion, Ribovics is the more educated striker. I just think he's the better striker. I think he has more tools on the feet, and I think he's going to land early and often here, and I think he's going to land hard. And I think Brenner's going to be in with a chance to compete at times because he's going to keep walking forward, heavy pace, heavy pressure. But at the end of the day, man, I don't necessarily see him surviving 15 minutes with someone like Ribovics who's going to push an insane pace. I mean, let's not forget the final second of that Nasrat Haqparast fight. He landed a massive blow that if there was 30 seconds left, he could have knocked him out. Now, I know he lost that fight, but it was an extremely close fight, and he still landed an insane amount of shots. If he lands the same amount of shots that he landed on Haqparast against Brener, Brener probably isn't lasting. And on top of that, Haqparast is very, very good at keeping his hands high and rolling with shots and blocking shots. Brener don't do that. He blocks shots with his face, and as we've seen in the last fight, with his body. Joel Alvarez kind of exposed him in the fact that he can be open and hurt to the body because he was always known as a very durable guy. But if you go back and watch the fight before that against Muktabek Urubai, again, he gets hurt to the head heavily, right? So it's like every time he got hit against Joel Alvarez, he looked a bit shaky. And every time he got hit by Urubai, he looked a bit shaky. So I feel like either the durability was a bit disguised during his early run in the UFC, or he just doesn't have good durability because his durability is getting worse. I don't know what one it is, but it doesn't matter because either one is going to be bad going against someone like Esteban Ribovics. Boys, like when I think about this fight, I just can't really see Brener competing on the feet for 15 minutes. I just can't see it, man. I mean, I think he's got some grappling upside here. You know, he's definitely going to be wrestling. Ribovics can be taken down. I mean, if you remember his UFC debut, the guy gets taken down 11 times by Loic. So, I mean, that just shows you the guy can be taken down. I don't care who you're fighting unless it's Marab. But if you get taken down 11 times, it's probably a weakness, you know? And he's been taken down in multiple UFC fights following that Camuela Kirk, where I bet him against Kirk. You know, he got taken down multiple times in that fight as well. It did not look good in round one, you know, gets bet taken and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that there's a grappling path here. I just don't think that Elves Brener has enough skill to rely on the grappling for 3 rounds. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think at some point the tide is going to shift. I think Brenner's going to get hit hard. I think he can, like I say, at some point the tide is going to shift. Not really, because I feel like Ribovics could go out there and head kick him in round 1 and knock him out like he did to McKinney. I think Ribovics can hurt. I think it's unlikely for a round 1 knockout, but I think it could happen. I also feel like it's actually likely that Ribovics lands some good shots in round 1 and hurts him. So it's not even that the tide will turn. He could just go out there and beat him every single round, you know? I think at some point Ribovics' diverse striking arsenal on the feet is going to be too much for Brener to deal with. Ribovics hunts the body quite well as well. And yeah, like I say, Brener has very good durability up top, even though he's been dropped from shots up top. But the body shot is maybe where he's lacking. We haven't seen it too much in MMA, but we saw it in his last fight, and we might see it again here. So it's kind of a simple breakdown for me, guys. I think Ribovics is going to win the fight. I think Argentina is going to take out Brazil in this one. I think they're going to do it inside the distance. And yeah, Ribovics to finish Elves Brener is my official prediction here. The next fight of the night, we have Kevin Vallejos taking on Danny Silva. So Kevin Vallejos has a record of 15-1, with Danny Silva having a record of 10-1. Similar record. Currently, they have Kevin Vallejos as a massive favorite, -460, with the underdog price tag on Danny Silva coming back at +360. Man, this is a good fight. This is one of the best fights on the card, and I have to again, because I always want to be open and honest and transparent with you guys. I need to say I might be biased on this one, right? I'm a big fan of Kevin Vallejos. I've spoke to him personally. I know his manager. I've spoke to him as well. So I ain't gonna come out here and outright shit on the guy or say the guy's gonna lose or anything like that. You know, I'm gonna give you my honest thoughts of the fight, but again, maybe I'm being a little bit biased. I'm a human at the end of the day. So just a disclaimer before I get into the breakdown. Let's get into the breakdown. What a fight. This is a banger. Both fighters are very good boxers for the division. Both fighters throw crazy volume. Both fighters have good power. Both fighters are slick strikers, not looking for the grappling. This is probably the fight of the night right here. If you guys can bet on fight of the night, there's a couple. There's my boy Kevin Vallejos is definitely in with a chance. My boy Chris Duncan is definitely in with a chance. Like, the two guys who I'm rooting for on the card are literally the two fights that I think are going to be the best fight on the card. Maybe that's biased, I don't know. But I was just going to say, if you have a chance to bet on fight of the night, I know some of these bookies allow it. Man, I wouldn't mind betting on a +500 for Kevin Vallejos and Danny Silva, or the same for Chris Duncan and Rebecki. I would bet those two, and you probably come out and profit. You know, they might even both get fired tonight. Like, that's how good these fights are going to be. Kevin Vallejos and Danny Silva's a banger, man. It's a banger. Any Kevin fight is a banger. Any Silva fight is a banger. One thing I want to say, which I'll bring up basically every time Kevin fights, is that Kevin fought Gene Silva, who's potentially the next champion at featherweight. He's probably going to beat Lopez, then he's probably going to beat Volkanovski. The guy is a very good fighter. Kevin Vallejos took round 1 from him, fairly clean, walked him down, was looking like a beast. Silva started to get his reads, landed big shots. Kevin started to slow down because he took shots, showed elite durability against Gene Silva, lasted the distance. Who's doing that against Gene Silva? He was very young at the time of the fight as well. He's still extremely young. He was only 21 years of age when he fought Gene Silva in a close fight, in one where he cleanly took a round. It was a 29-28 decision, and it was close. You know, so, man, like, that says all you need to know. That says all you need to know. I max bet Kevin in his last fight against Sung Woo Choi. This guy is an absolute marauder. You know, he's going to walk forward, very educated boxing, very big power, an ability to set up his shots with the body shots extremely well as well. Danny Silva is elite in his own right. The guy has a wide striking skill set. I feel like he throws more on the feet than Kevin, like he's got more tools. You know, I've seen Danny hit spinning back fists on fighters. Against Lucas Almeida, in his last fight, he hit him with a solid spinning back fist, rocked him there. I've seen him throw kicks. I've seen him get multiple takedowns. You know, I bet him against Josh Kulabau, and the takedowns helped play a part in that win there. It was a very close fight. We cashed him as an underdog. And like I said, the takedowns were big there. So he'll go to the grappling. He'll do spinning shit. Kevin Vallejos, for the most part, is a boxer. But you know who else is a boxer for the most part? Gene Silva, you know, like even Ilia Topuria, you know what I mean? Like you can be mostly a boxer and still be at the top of the division, as Gene Silva and Ilia Topuria are showing, especially in the featherweight division. Maybe it's the new meta. Maybe these boxers with good durability and crazy power, like Kevin, like Gene, like Ilia Topuria, maybe that's the new meta for the featherweight division. You know, Volkanovski is also a short guy with pretty decent power. You know, he's very different from those guys. But anyway, just because Danny has maybe a wider skill set in terms of what he will throw and what he will use, doesn't mean that he's the better fighter. I mean, we've got a minus 460 price tag on Kevin Vallejos. Look, I'm not going to make the breakdown too long, boys, because like I said, probably better to listen to someone else's breakdown. I mentioned a bunch of guys earlier who I respect because I'd be a bit biased, but I think Vallejos is going to win the fight. I think Vallejos is going to knock Danny down. I think he's going to hurt Danny. I think that, you know, the power will be the tail of the fight here. I think Danny can come on strong later in the rounds. Maybe in rounds 2 and rounds 3. I haven't seen Kevin Vallejos go through adversity like multiple times in his career. You know, Gene Silva was one, but this is going to be a great barometer of how he deals with pace, volume, pressure, takedowns, cardio, boxing, you know, like durability. Like this is going to be a good fight to measure that, but I trust he's going to come through it. I trust that he's going to land the better shots on the feet, the harder shots on the feet. And although Danny Silva may out-volume him at times and maybe get a takedown or two, I just feel like Kevin Vallejos is going to be the one maybe walking him down, the one with more pressure. Yes, he might get hit, but I think he's going to be the one landing the biggest shots, the more eye-catching moments on the judges. Like I said, he probably lands a knockdown. He could even land a knockout. So yeah, that's my prediction for the fight. Kevin Vallejos to win the fight. I feel like decision, you know, a rare decision in his career, just because I want to respect Danny Silva. But I mean, you can never count out Kevin KO. You know, the guy hits so hard. So yeah, and he's obviously improving. 23 years old, the guy's improving heavily. Fight to fight, he's going to be improving. So yeah, he's the future of the division. It's going to be a great fight though. Like I said, fight of the night. Kevin Vallejos to get this win is my official prediction. And boys, now we go to the lucrative Wheel of Fortune, where I give you one chance to join my exclusive members zone, where you get all of my official picks and predictions, all of my official bets, and not only that, but the exact amount of money to put on each bet, which are the exact bets that I'm betting myself, so you can just copy and paste the bets that I am doing. You'll also have access to our exclusive insider group chat, where you can speak directly with me and everyone else in the group chat and celebrate on fight nights and throughout the week on other sports. We cap everything. You also get access to my profitable long shot parlays and my long shot prop bets and my full card breakdowns. Like, there's so much stuff in there. I'm not going to go through it all. Best parlay pieces on the card, like a bunch of stuff. All you need to do to be in with a chance to enter is to comment down below, a good comment, and you'll be automatically placed into next week's draw. So the draw that we're doing today was everyone who commented on the last video. If it lands on your name, that means you left a good comment. That means I'm gonna give you 1 month free. If you haven't won, don't worry. You can go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma and sign up anyway. But make sure you leave a comment, because even if you're signed up, I'll still give you an extra month for free, even if you're signed up. So let's spin the Wheel of Fortune now and see who wins this one. All right, spinning now, let's see. Now, there should be more names because the first video got deleted, but it is what it is. More people are gonna have a chance now. Here we go, Sports Gank. You are the winner. Sports Gank, congratulations. DM me on social media. I'll verify your YouTube profile, which I have right now. So don't try and scam, because I literally have the YouTube profile. Don't pretend like you're him. And that's it. I'll verify you and get you into my Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. Like I said, if you haven't won today, don't worry. Go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma to sign up, get access to my VIP, and start cashing with us. That's it, boys. Good luck on this weekend. Hopefully we cash. War Chris Duncan, war Kevin Vallejos, and war our bets. Good luck. See you next week.